Communication planning. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them that you told them. That is a key to communication as a project manager. So when you develop your communication plan, you're going to tell your stakeholders and customers what they need to know. You're going to remind them of what you've told them throughout the duration of the project. And at the end, you're going to tell them what you told them about the project to keep them up to date and informed on your progress. Let's talk about putting a communication plan together. Project communication. When we think about planning communication for a project, we have to first define project communication and why it's important. We can talk about cultural issues in communicating during the project execution. We have communication requirements analysis that occurs. We talk about the types of communication as well as the communication plan. Communication. Throughout the project, there's a need to communicate with the project sponsor, team members, and other stakeholders. Those stakeholders could be customers, clients, suppliers, partners, and the public, depending on the type of project that you're running. For each group that you're going to be communicating to, there has to be a purpose around that communication, frequency, the format that you're going to use to communicate to them, the amount of time that you're going to be communicating, and there may be a possible need for a hierarchy of reporting as you communicate. You could be communicating at a portfolio level. A portfolio simply is a collection of programs, and those programs have projects in them. You could be communicating at the program level, which has a collection of projects in it, and you could be communicating at both of those levels. You could be communicating at the project level, the individual project that you're running, and then you also could be communicating to a task group, which could be involved with all three of those. Understanding the frequency of communication to all those different groups, whether it's a portfolio group, a program group, a project group, or a task group, is very important as a project manager. You have to set your communication up for the level that you're going to be communicating to and what they need in order to help you be successful as a project manager. Synchronous options. When you're communicating, you could do face-to-face communication, but remember that when you're doing that, that doesn't happen always in the same place. So you could use a conference call, you could use a video link, you could use computer-assisted video conferencing, or you could use instant messaging or texting to communicate with everyone that has a stake in your project. Your asynchronous options include the following. Asynchronous options. Those include courier mail or snail mail as we call it today, email, fax, the project blog if you have one of those, RSS, as well as social media presence. So these are ways to communicate with your stakeholders that don't involve you having a face-to-face interaction with them. They will receive the information from you as they receive it in their various medium. Communication planning. When you're sitting down to figure out who you communicate to during the execution of a project, here's some questions that you want to be able to answer. Who am I communicating to? Why am I communicating to them? What do they need to know or want to know? How often should I be communicating to them? What method do they prefer? Are there methods that are unsuitable to communicate to them? Who will be the contact person from the project for this communication? These are all questions you must answer in building out your communication plan. Team meetings. The purpose of a team meeting is basically to verify progress, identify challenges, and get assistance where needed. The frequency and duration of these team meetings vary throughout the project. When you're planning your team meetings, be considerate and schedule offline meetings if only a few are involved in a particular item. It wastes the time of the rest. Frequent, very short meetings may be more effective with a small team, like the daily stand-ups when you're having an agile systems development type of project. The PM may need to meet and report with other PMs in the same program or portfolio. If you're like me, you hate meetings. And the reason you hate meetings is because you want to make sure that when people come, that they're effective meetings. You don't want to meet as a project manager just for the sake of meeting. You want to make sure as you schedule these meetings that they're productive and they continue to help your project move along. So as you're putting these meetings together, which you must have as a part of your communications plan, always focus on the purpose of the meeting and making sure that everyone understands why they are there. Have a meeting agenda, move through the agenda, and send that agenda out before each meeting so everyone knows why they are there and can also contribute to the meeting in a way to keep it effective and efficient. Report to management or sponsor. The frequency and format may be dictated by the sponsor of how you communicate with them. There's a purpose in doing this, and the purpose is to report the progress, identify challenges and changes, get support for necessary changes or added resources. There needs to be a balance between raising the alarm too early and waiting too long and being in too deep when you're communicating with management or the project sponsor. Other stakeholders. There are other stakeholders of your project that may need to be consulted or informed. The business customers and suppliers may be impacted by the project, so you have to keep them in mind as you communicate to them. If you have contractors and suppliers on your project, they need to know about other aspects of the project. So the PM's job or the project manager's job is to inform them of the status because it has an impact on how they deliver to the project. The government may have a role, so you have to think about permits, inspections, and other documentation in order to execute on the project. The project management office needs to know what's going on, so you may have to communicate with them. The frequency, format, and content of the communications may be dictated by law or may be a provision of a contractual agreement. This is just an example of a communication plan template. As you see, you have the project name, the beginning date, the completion date, the project manager, the plan owner, and then you talk about some of the objectives and key messages that you want to deliver to your stakeholders. You include your stakeholders as far as target audience, and then you also look at the timeline, the member, the target audience, and the tool that is used to communicate with them. As long as you use this type of format to put your communication plan together, it will make sense to everyone involved why you do what you do as a project manager. In summary, project communication is a success factor, a key success factor in delivering your project. Start with the communication requirements analysis and then prepare a communication plan that considers all the stakeholders. Consider a variety of synchronous and asynchronous methods. Use appropriate technology. Consider cultural issues when planning and carrying out project communication. And remember, communication is a two-way process, not always a broadcast.